host, Bob Harden.
Thanks so much for joining us here on the show. It's brought to you in part by the Foundation for Government Accountability, creating policies and programs to get able-bodied folks off of welfare and back to work. It's a moral imperative, and I proudly serve on the board. I hope you'll check out the website, thefga.org. Coming up, going to be visiting with Sharon Kenny, the author of Where Should We Eat? Right now, we have with us Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser is the author of the Battle for the Soul of Islam, a terrific read. Also, he is the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Dr. Jasser, thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Oh, it's great to be back with you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things, but first I wanted to just get your thoughts about what's happening in the Middle East right now, the election in Israel, the position of Iran, what's happened with regard to the Houthi rebels. It's pretty complicated over there, but I just wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, I think, first of all, with Iran, this is very predictable, and I think the president's position of maximum pressure. The Obama administration's approach was appeasement at any cost, any sort of ignore. You put your blinders on, give them $150 billion, and let them do what they want, which includes stoking terrorism in the region, helping Assad commit a genocide, helping Hezbollah, and helping the Houthi rebels not only bring terror and crimes in Yemen, but also attack the Saudis. Or you can put maximum pressure on them, not using, realizing that the nuclear deal was a complete sham, and saying, you know what, it's not only their nuclear capabilities we want to prevent and take a look at, but also prevent the greatest sponsor of terror on the planet from being able to continue to do that. So I think once you remove those blinders and you see not only the short and the long-term issues, then Iran starts getting pushed into a corner. Mm-hmm. And just like an animal that's in a mousetrap, they'll gnaw off their leg, and that's sort of what's happening. They've committed cyber attacks in the region. They've attacked cargo ships from NATO countries. They have continued to stoke terror, and now they've attacked what appears intelligence is showing it may have even come from Iran, though some thought it came from Iranian interest in Iraq. But they attacked 5% of the world's oil. Mm-hmm. And, there needs to be a response. There has to be a proportional response so that there's some deterrence. And I'm looking forward to some type of response once intelligence confirms what exactly happened. But I think as much as people, especially the left, are saying, oh, this is stoking war, I think it's obvious if there's any president that campaigned on getting us out of wars, it's President Trump. Right. But yet radicals like the Iranian theocrats know that just as we saw with ISIS in Syria, when he means that we're going to get rid of them, he allows the Pentagon to do that. So I think it's working. I think obviously there's increased concern, and we can't let them affect the world's economy like they're trying to do. And the reason they're doing that is they're feeling huge amount of economic pressure, and they want the rest of the region to feel it. And we can't do that. We can't allow the Saudis to be attacked without response. And we have to start, I think, protecting the airspace there, whichever mechanism they use for the suicide-type drone that carried a missile or more than one missile, and that we need to start beefing up the defenses in the area to prevent a repeat attack.
Well said. Now, if I probably should have started the interview by asking about the American Islamic Forum for Democracy and the work that you do in your mission.
Well, thank you. We realize, as I hope Americans do, that you can't win this war militarily, that there has to be a ideological response, and the ideological response against the symptom of terrorism is the core disease, the cancer, which is theocratic Islam or Islamism. And our Muslim reform movement is about countering that. The American Islamic Forum for Democracy is a think tank that I chair. And, our mission is to separate mosque and state, protect American freedom and liberty, and counter all of the battlefronts that include the Islamists. We see the recent controversy of the Women's March leader that is one of the grossest anti-Semites and anti-American separatists, Zahra Balloo, that now the Women's March within 24 hours removed her, just like they removed Linda Sarsour. So our organization is countering that. We just had a town hall right in the backyard of Ilhan Omar.
Mm.
And as radical as Ilhan Omar is, I think there is a silver lining to that storm cloud, and that silver lining is that America's finally realizing who's running our community, the Muslim communities. And Ellison had the same ideas in that district, but he knew how to fly under the radar a lot better. And now they're sort of unleashed, and Americans are, oh, well, is she sort of an aberration, and is her radicalism something to ignore? And it's just a one-off. It's not a one-off. These are the imams, the ideas coming from imams and mosques from Minnesota to California to Detroit, and the Rashida Tlaibs and Ilhan Omars don't come out of thin air.
Yeah.
And our organization is beginning to counter a lot of the, providing a balance, providing an alternative that American Muslims can do better than the Council on American Islamic Relations and all of its allies.
Yeah, it's so interesting and so well said. So, do you see hope there? I mean, are people concerned about Omar in her particular district, at the St. Louis Park and out in that area? I know there's a large Muslim settlement of I've forgotten which country they're from, but where she's from. But the point is,
Somalia.
Yeah. So, do you have hope? Do you think people will begin to have concerns about her?
Well, just like in the Cold War, where it took us a while until we began to have a strategy nationally to fight the threat of the global threat and domestic threat of communism. Islamism has also an insidious, significant threat, and I think just like treating cancer, sometimes the patient gets worse before they get better. So initially, we just saw a fight this week with the Human Rights in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and the CARE folks lost that fight. And ultimately, they did not get their appointee in. So there are some battles they're beginning to lose. They're going to win some before we get enough of an understanding that Americans need to wake up and become a little more active than allowing the Islamists to determine who speaks for it, not only for Muslims, but for Americans. Ilhan Omar represents an entire district that's supposed to be diverse, and yet when the district there ignores all of her possible crimes, immigration fraud, and other things that have been ignored, they do so at the expense of the credibility of their entire district.
It's so true. Well, and one of the things I appreciate about our conversation is that we've gone through this era or period of being politically correct and not calling out exactly what the problem is. And unless we actually understand what the issue is, we can't necessarily muster the resources in order to solve the problem. It's kind of like this climate change farce that we're going through right now. So, What, in your opinion, I mean, do we still have the threat of Islamic Jihad here in the United States?
Listen, there's no doubt. Right in your backyard, Bob. Last week or a few days ago, we saw a mechanic for American Airlines who on his phone had pictures of ISIS videos, was threatening a flight, and then when he's caught, had a brother that was working with ISIS, and when he's caught, claimed that it was about union hours disputes and money, when in fact he's an ideological radical Islamist. And thank God our Homeland Security operations, FBI and others, are on top of it before he did anything. Mm-hmm. So, these cases are going to continue. The jihadists are as prevalent as they've ever been. ISIS might be on the run, but they will pop up in different permutations because the ideology has not been combated. And, listen, as great as the Trump administration has been on a forceful response to radical Islamist groups across the planet and reconnecting with our allies that were lost during the Obama administration, we still don't have an offense. We need an offense against political Islam ideologically. We need to begin to create a strategy to do this. And we've not done it. You can't win not only any football game without an offense. You can't win any type of global conflict. And right now, the jihadists are constantly putting us on defense domestically and globally. We need a strategy that starts to push the ideas that would fill the vacuum that Russia and China and Iran and other major powers are trying to fill with political Islamist movements and their group. we need to fill that with the ideas of freedom and liberty and independence.
Yeah. Again, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, wish we had more time, Dr. Jasser, but I want to encourage our listeners to read your book, The Battle for the Soul of Islam. A terrific read by a book by Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Very transparent, and a terrific read, but very informative as well. Also, the website of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy.
AIFdemocracy.org. AIFdemocracy.org.
I hope you'll check it out. Dr. Jasser, always appreciate your commentary here in the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Bob. Always great to be with you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I want to remind you that he's on his rounds right now. It's what time? It's 4 o'clock in the morning in Phoenix, Arizona. So God bless Dr. Jasser for taking the time to have that conversation.